Welcome, welcome. This is Real Talk with Artists, episode 3. Today we have a very special guest with us, Casimiro Llamas Jr. Welcome to Real Talk with
Hi,
Artists.
can
How
you
are you
hear me
doing
okay? I
today?
just want to make sure we're good with like audio and all that. We're good.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I am so excited to have you here today, Casimiro, because you are our first artist who is a fashion designer and pattern maker. And
Awesome.
I'm really excited to learn about you, to learn about, what is like a pattern maker, right? And
Yeah.
I'd love to learn about your creative journey, what it took to become, a fashion designer. How has your career trajectory been like? And what advice would you have for people with inspirational goals to be fashion designers? So
Yeah.
thank you for being here, Casimiro. Can you please let our audience know a little bit about you, who you are, and all that good jazz?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned my name is Casimiro Llamas Jr. I'm originally from the Central Valley. I grew up in a small town called Mendota, California. It's the cantaloupe center of the world. Um, yeah, so lived there for like 20 some years, went to school here. And then in 2009, I decided that I was going to pursue fashion design. And so I went to the Academy of Art and got my MFA there in women's wear fashion design. And so I spent 11 years in the Bay, kind of working in the fashion industry, and I still do. And so I studied design and how to like cut and sew, and mind you, at this time, I had never really touched a sewing machine. Well,
Sorry.
so
This is what happens when I'm not in the studios of Berkeley Community Media, y'all. Shout out to David, who is watching us.
it's real life, right? It's real life.
Oh my goodness. You know what? The funny thing too is that instead of going live on REEM Media, I inadvertently have us live on my
Oh,
on Christina Trujillo.
it's
Hey,
okay.
it happens,
It
right?
happens.
Right? We're
It
just gonna
happens.
go through
Yes, we're
it.
gonna do it. Yeah, so I was studying fashion design in San Francisco, and then once I graduated, kind of worked in the industry and been doing that ever since. Um, yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else I should mention or you want to get into?
Yes, because this is Real Talk with Artists. So, I mean, we're just warming up. We're
I
just
know.
warming
Yeah,
up, right?
sure. Ask
You
me
know,
what else.
we're just warming up because the thing about creatives, artists. I feel that if you were to ask, like, majority of the people, what if you didn't have to like work for money, what would you
Mm,
be doing?
yeah,
I feel like a lot of people would say something with in the scope of creativity, right?
yeah,
art
yeah.
art. I mean, I feel like
Hmm.
we are here to create,
Yeah.
right? And I do believe that every industry offers some type of element of creativity. But I also know like the grind and society, the
Yeah.
system makes it very hard, right? To harness our creativity. It's meant to stifle it, right? And so
Hmm.
I always want to know, what does it take for to have this passion, to be
Hmm.
an artist, to be a creative, and then be able to live that life, right? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, we're just warming up. So
Yeah.
you mentioned that you were raised in Mendota, so
Hmm.
that's Central Valley, correct?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
what was that like for you? When did you get inspired for fashion?
I always saw like my abuela or my tias like sewing or like embroidering or actually like my tia who I'm really close to, she still has like she works on her sewing machine and like anytime we get together we still talk about like sewing and like making clothing. And so I remember her telling me she made her siblings their clothes and she would like study it in school and all this stuff. And growing up in a small like mostly Latino town, like that's not necessarily something for males. So like I would always kind of like eavesdrop from the side or like I would try to learn things and sometimes like not be taught. But I don't know, it was just fascinating to me how like you could take like a needle and thread and put something together or like make pants shorter, or like actually take fabric and make it into something that people can wear. And so it was always there, but I had this like notion that I needed to get like a real job, like something that paid the bills and like provided security. And so, I pursued like an English degree in hopes of being a teacher. But then the last year, I was just like, I don't think I want to do that. Like I think I'm going to try to kind of like follow like what my gut is wanting me to do. And so then I pursued fashion. Like I delved into it and decided like to take that chance.
Wow, I love that. So, who was the person maybe in your family
Mhm.
that that sewed, or that was your inspiration growing
Yeah,
up?
yeah, it was definitely my tia Antonia, because she was the one that was always like doing that kind of stuff. And
What's her name? I'm sorry.
Antonia,
Antonia. Okay.
yeah, yeah, that's my dad's older sister, and so she was always working with something. Like I remember even her like embroidering, like just kind of like pillowcases, or like always doing something with her hands like that. Like just kind of, I always thought it was like magic, right? Because it's like you take something so plain sometimes, and then you just add like life to it in a way.
I love that. I love that concept of it. And actually, from my background, my family also comes, from the garment industry. They were
Mhm.
um, quality control supervisors.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, so that was like my mom. Before the fashion industry in LA just like completely collapsed.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Because there
My
was a lot of
mom,
like factories down there, and like, yeah.
and so that was that my mom was a quality control supervisor, and both my sisters are super creative, super artistic. My sister Estea, shout out to her and her new business. She has a business called Solstice, and she
Uh-huh.
puts together. She makes tie dye
Yeah, yeah,
with
yeah,
organic material, right? And she just I think she just put together a pillowcase, and she was so happy and proud of it. And then Michelle, shout out to her. She's been also doing things for, like
yeah.
that for a very long time. And I just think it's so wonderful how we can get inspired, right, by our elders, um,
Mm-hmm.
to do
For
something like,
sure.
and they probably, wouldn't prefer that particular career for us, because for them, working in the factories is just such a
Yeah,
struggle. But
yeah.
I don't know, I feel like times are definitely changing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
I would
so
agree. Yeah.
yeah, so tell us a little bit about that. Like when you were like, yeah, I have to, choose a career. I'm going to make money. Well, I have to make money, but then
Mm-hmm.
and you were going to school for your English degree. What was yeah, what helped you like be like take that sort of act of courage, right? Where you're like, I have to pursue
Yeah,
passion.
yeah. I think it was like, I mean, at the time that I was like finishing school, shows like Project Runway were like becoming really big, and then like just like looking at magazines, or looking at like runway pictures, and like just kind of once you start kind of like researching or exploring, like it just felt like, okay, like if I don't do this, I'm gonna regret it. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna regret not pursuing something for the sake of pursuing it. And like it was just like, I'm one of those people that it's like, okay, like if it's gnawing at me for like days and days and days, like I have to do something about it. And so like I started taking like campus tours of fashion schools, and then kind of seeing like the equipment and like the studio spaces that they had, and like getting to see some of the work. And I was just like, okay, like I definitely like I had so much like excitement and anxiety around it, that I was just like, I have to do this. And then still kind of being in a classroom, and that kind of not feeling fulfilling, um, you know, for myself. Um,
Yeah.
and then just kind of like, so the two together just kind of propelled me to like just pursue it. And then here I am.
That's really wonderful. And so, what would you say for students who are currently in fashion school? Pieces of advice would you give to them to continue, on, right? In
Right,
terms of
right.
like, yeah, like you mentioned, like you don't like being in the classroom, because I'm sure you're just wanting to get your hands on something and create it,
Yeah,
right? So,
yeah.
yeah, what are some good tips that you can give to students to be patient or resilient?
I think like, so like learn the rules, learn from your instructors, take in the information that they're giving you.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, I think what's most important is that like you find your voice and find strength in like what it is you want to do like with fashion. Like a lot of people, I think, back when I was in school, it was very like specific how they wanted us like trained and like kind of what the aspirations were. But I think, like as a creative, I think it's important to like find the confidence to really find your voice in like what you want to do. Like if it's like I just want to sew tote bags and screen print, funny words on them. Like, do that. Like, if that's the thing that really makes you happy and like you find joy in that, and that's like what wakes you up in the morning, like, do that. But if it's also like making hand embroidered like corset dresses, do that. Like whatever it is, like find that thing that like gives you that spark,
Yeah.
and just take in whatever it is that everyone else is giving you for the moment, but definitely like find your voice and like stick with that.
That's so beautiful. So tell us, when it comes to fashion, creating
Hmm.
fashion, because you're also a pattern maker, so
Hmm.
how do we find our voice within that type of artistic channel?
Yeah.
How does our voice translate into that?
Like I think it's like, like what is it that you want to make? Like what is it that, because like, there's different levels of fashion, right? Like if you think about it, like you have clothing at Target, you have clothes at Bloomingdale's, like
Yeah.
Macy's, whatever. Like the different brands have a very different like point of view,
Right.
And so I think it's like exploring like what do you like doing? Like what shapes are you drawn to, or like fabrics, or like are you kind of like a person that wants to rummage through a thrift store and like piece things together in an interesting way, or are you like I'm gonna like dye my own fabric in a very like interesting color, or like your sister that does tie dye, right? Like
Yeah.
that's something that she's exploring and then she's interested in, and then like other people might not be so drawn to that, And I think it's
Yeah.
more like the more that you do it, the more that you like find what you like. Like for me, like calling myself a pattern maker, it's because I enjoy like making my own patterns, which are basically like the templates for the pieces that you cut in fabric to
Yeah.
make a garment. And like that's when I find my most like creativity, because I'm seeing the shapes come together and I'm like putting pieces together and I'm like calculating and I'm like, okay, like if this goes here, but would it be interesting if I did this? And like what happens if I go there? And like, oh, and then I have to think about like the person's body and like, well, how is this gonna fall from here? And like, that kind of stuff. Like there's a lot of moving parts. And
Wow.
so that's the part that I feel like most alive when I'm doing it, is because
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally like a pencil, paper, and an eraser and like rulers and stuff, but I feel like it's still very tactile. Like I'm being very methodical and I'm like touching things and I'm like moving them around and figuring it out. And I think for folks that are trying to find their own voice, it's like just like explore. Like give yourself the freedom to like not be perfect and just like run with it.
Yeah, I love that. That is so beautiful. And I love how you described it for us. Like I was thinking of math. You have to know
Yeah, yeah,
geometry.
yeah, yeah.
I was thinking of like puzzles, like putting
Hmm.
pieces of the puzzles together. I
That's
was
exactly it.
like,
Yeah.
so many, that's a lot, and
Yeah.
I feel like I've been taking clothes for granted. Because I don't, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, this looks good. Let me just put it on,
Yeah, yeah,
even if it
yeah.
doesn't fit, because it's hard
Yeah.
getting things to fit my little tiny. So,
Yeah.
and I love how you said the way like it'll flow, and you
Hmm.
have to consider a person's shape, and that is so beautiful. Those are some really wonderful descriptions, and it brings to mind like how, and you kind of alluded to this too, where you get into your zone, right?
Right.
Because it also brings to mind how you have to be so here and so present to be that observant,
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
that observant of shapes and
Yeah.
of patterns.
Yeah.
Because if you were to like, we were to have a walk together and you'd be like, Christina, what do you see?
Yeah.
My head is gonna be in the clouds, right? So props to you for being
Yeah.
able to like really
Yeah.
observe things and be so
Yeah.
present. Because I also
Look at
know from
yeah.
a conversation we had that you also draw inspiration from from the architecture.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tell us about that.
Yeah. I don't know why like buildings always inspire me or like I
Amazing.
think I think it's because of the shapes, right? Like
Yeah.
if you think about when you look at a build well, maybe not everybody, but like when I look at a building, I look at, kind of like the overall structure, right? And like what materials are used. Like I'm like, oh, that's brick, or like, oh, that's wooden, or like that's metal, or like all glass or whatever. But like I'll notice like the shape of the windows or whatever. And like lately I've been trying to get out every morning, so either like for a run or a walk. And I noticed that like when I'm walking around like my neighborhood, I notice all the differences like in the houses, right? Like, there's like this one street where the houses are all very different, and I'll notice
Yeah.
like, oh, that roof is like angled like this, like all triangles, and it's sloped and it's like this, and then this one's more rounded, and then I start to play around with the idea of like, oh, well, how would that look like as a neckline, or like, or an
Wow.
overall shape of this, or if I put like could I make that a pocket design or like and it happens quickly, I think, because I've been doing it for so long. But like architecture and the shapes that you find in them can kind of really inspire like garment shapes or like design details or things like that. And it might not, be very like forthcoming when someone looks at the clothes, but I know for myself, like, oh yeah, like that's reminiscent of this, and like I saw that and I tried to mimic this thing, and so like that's what I put into like when I'm making that garment, but yeah, like
That's really great. So, okay, tell us, like, maybe give us an example. I know
mm,
you shared some pictures with me.
yeah.
So, give us an example. I'm gonna pull up a picture,
Hmm.
and I would love for you to take us through that creative journey of, from the inception, the idea,
Yeah.
right, the
Yeah.
ideation,
Yeah.
to boom, like it's actually here. It's
Yeah.
someone's modeling like clothes. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
take
Yeah.
us
Yeah.
through that. I love it. Okay,
Yeah.
so everyone, let me see if I can share. Okay, first, so everyone, hello again. We are simultaneously. We're currently on YouTube, Twitter. We're here on Instagram. So you can actually view us on these other channels and see what we're going to be sharing. I'm going to try to share it here on Instagram as well because I saved some of these photos on my phone. Give us a second. Are you wondering which photo I'm going to share first, Casimiro?
I am. I'm curious to know what you are gonna put up.
All right, here we go. Let me see if I can add it here too. Nope. Add it. There used to be a way that I could add pictures
Mm,
to Instagram. All right. So if you're on YouTube,
yes.
you're gonna be able to see the picture I'm sharing right now. I'm gonna do it my best again to share from see on Instagram. Have it. So I'm giving Casamiro a moment to see what he's gonna tell us about this beautiful model that we see here. Modeling. A ver, todo aquí. Hmm. All right. I don't know. I guess we're not going to be able to see the picture on Instagram. So, folks, please uh, join us. Yeah, join us on YouTube so you can see this beautiful picture that we have of Casamiro, of Casamiro's beautiful clothing. I
Yeah.
want to say clothing line, Casamiro. Is
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, like I haven't really like launched anything. I've just made pieces for people at this point, but
Okay,
down the road, who knows?
absolutely.
Yeah. So this dress was actually like a project I did
Mhm.
um, back in like 2012 for school. And so the fabric is this like really nice, stretchy, comfortable crepe wool, which was really nice to work with. And so the dress itself was inspired actually by like a Cuban artist
Okay.
who I think he was like half Cuban, half Chinese. And so he had painted this painting that like it looked actually like buildings, like rows and rows of buildings.
Yeah.
But then it like when you looked at it, it also kind of looked like the buildings had like animal faces to it, but also like people bodies or it was very like surreal.
Wow.
But what drew me to that painting was the curves. Like, I don't if you look kind of like where the model's hand is at, like to the left, you can kind of see like
Yes.
a curved line there. And then up here, it's like rounded off. And so to me, it was like trying to mimic what I found in the painting. And it
Okay.
was mostly like the curves of lines and that kind of thing. And then I had looked at like what people were wearing in like 1920s in China,
Yeah.
just kind of as like a clothing reference. And so kind of like the style of the dress was very like similar to that. But again, it was more of like the rounded shape. Like I kind of made it more form fitting when you got to the waist, and then rounded off the skirt and things like that. And if you look at like the sleeves and everything, everything's kind of like circular.
Okay. I love it. So, how long did it take to create this dress?
Because I was so new at it, it
Yeah.
took me like I want to say like 2 weeks. Mostly because it was like, anyone who sewing curves or like rounded things together
Yeah.
is very challenging because the fabric wants to stretch and it wants to pull in different directions. So you have to kind of like it's kind of like a kid. You have to kind of keep them like close by and check in a way.
Yeah.
Um, and so I had some trouble, but yeah, no, I think it took like 2 weeks, and then we were fitting it on a model. So the model that you see photograph, I was fitting
Yeah.
on for a couple of weeks before, just to make sure that like it fell at the right length, and she could put it on, and that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, and this is such a good picture. So this is actually, so you mentioned this is one of your like your earlier.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And actually, it was like a classmate of mine who like did the photography, and it was like one of the first like semi-professional things I had done, and like
Yeah.
they were like asking me like, how do you want the hair and makeup, and how do you want her to pose, and all this stuff, and I was like, I don't know, let her have fun with it. I don't know.
Right. I love it. I mean, I'm sure like with every artist, like you create something, and I'm sure it's a different story when you see your art. You know, for you, it's
Right,
like your art being worn, right,
right, right, right, right. Yeah,
on a body. So
yeah.
so here is what do we see here? A sketch. Is that I wanted to say it was like with some whiskey nearby.
No, it was. I think it was like Sauvignon Blanc or something like that. I forgot. I was drinking
Okay,
wine. I
okay.
usually like I was drinking wine when I was feeling creative.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if anyone who follows me on Instagram, you probably saw this on my page. Yeah. So before kind of like I start creating any clothing or garments or whatever, like I like to sketch things out.
Yeah.
So here's a sketch of kind of like a long plaid vest with like a skirt top thing. And so you can kind of see like I was trying to play around with like the textures in the vest and thinking like, oh, like I could do plaid here and do this here. And so I was trying to draw more of like the different fabrics that I could use to kind of make this more of like a textured vest garment thing that like this person would wear. Um,
I
and
love it.
so kind of like it's kind of like me just sketching ideas and kind of having more fun with it. Because it's like I'm not sewing or anything yet, and so it kind of just gives me an idea of like, like how long do I want to make things, or like how boxy or like fitted, or kind of like what could I play around with.
Yeah, I love it. So then, can you tell us when it comes to being so it's fashion designer and maker?
Hmm, hmm.
Are they synonymous? Do you have to be a pattern maker to be a fashion designer? Um, Here in the sketch, do we see a little bit of both?
In the sketch, you probably would see like a little bit of both because I try to
Okay.
do my sketches like really detailed. Like
Okay.
I try to draw like all the seams and like how the pieces would fit together.
Yeah.
Um, but to go back to your earlier question, like you don't have to be a pattern maker to be a fashion designer. I think to be a fashion designer, it's great if you know how to like make patterns and cut and sew because it'll make you understand like clothing all the better. So when you design, you know all the like nooks and crannies it takes to make it real life.
Yeah.
Um, but it's like pattern making in and of itself is very like technical, and it's like it's kind of like a fashion designer is the architect,
Yeah.
and then a pattern maker is the engineer. And
Oh,
so if an architect has engineering background, like it makes their
yeah.
job better and easier, and like you're much more like able to figure things out. And then an engineer just does the thing, like they know like all the stuff. And so like because I do more pattern making than just designing, like when I look at clothing, I know how to kind of like mentally take it apart and put it back together. Or like I know how to like piece it together so that it does the things that I want it to. Like if I look at a sketch, I like a sketch that I've done, I can like look at that and say like, okay, like I need to do this and like move this out here and then like add more here and like play around with it that way. So it kind of helps. But they're not synonymous. It's just something that would help you kind of be more like, I guess, well, for myself, it's like allows me to be more creative.
I love it. So, if you're here visit with us on Instagram, you can also view us on YouTube or Twitter. You can type in REEM Media on YouTube, and you'll be able to see these beautiful shares. These examples that we're showing right now of Casamiro's work. It's so beautiful. I love this dress, Casamiro.
Yeah,
For all
yeah.
y'all that
She's
love
one of my
fashion,
favorites.
you got to come and see this because it's so beautiful.
Yeah. So this is actually a dress that I made for a relative of mine who was going to their prom. And
Wow,
so she had
that's
asked
so
me to make her a
cool.
prom dress. And this one, I was actually more inspired by like the fabric because of the print. Like it's so, like to me, I was so drawn to it. Like it's got like this foil print, and I definitely wanted that to be like the focus. And then I wanted it to be playful because I think, it was her junior prom. And so like I wanted her to just feel like it was a fun thing to wear. And it was definitely, it was a fun experience because it was like one of the first like people that I knew that I was like working on
Yeah,
something for. And then like it was like a fun fabric and just the design of it, like I really enjoyed. And I don't know, like the fabric to me was just so like breathtaking in a lot of ways. And so it was like really fun to like kind of just work with that and then see like the final product. Like I think it looked great on her, and she seemed really excited, and I was really happy.
yeah, it's gorgeous. It's absolutely
Yeah.
stunning.
And it has
It's
pockets.
breathtaking.
So,
It does. It's so convenient. I love
yeah.
it. So are you available open for commissions? Like if somebody wants
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah,
do.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, like I have my machine set up. I actually have space to like work on things now because I had just like I've kind of been in a transition for a while. So yes, if folks want things made, definitely hit me up. I think you have my Instagram handle scrolling on
Yes.
the bottom. So
Yeah.
like go there, DM me, what have you, like, let me know.
And what's that process like for folks to commission you for something? Like, do they come with an idea or fabric or what's that
I'm
like?
I think I'm open. Like I'm very flexible because I think it's like it's one of those things because I don't do it like as a full-time job, right? Like it's not necessarily something I do every day, all day. Um, for me, it's like I think it's more of like it depends on the person, right? Like if the person has an idea that they have, like yes, let's work on it. If they want me to come with ideas, like cool, I'll do that. If they have something in mind in terms of like what fabric they want or whatever, like to me, making clothes for people, it's a collaboration. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I bring my skills and like my knowledge and whatever to kind of get them what it is that they want, or maybe I do something for them that they didn't even think about, and then they're super excited about it or what have you. And so it's kind of like a one-on-one experience that I have,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, so everything is going to be different every time because we're going to work with different things. I'm going to work with different people, and we're going to like kind of like vibe off each other and then see like what the product will be at the end.
Yeah, that's really amazing. So somebody could just be like, okay, DM you, I have an idea,
Yeah.
and then you can just go from there.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
That's real. That sounds like a lot of fun. That and so what are we seeing here now on this particular
So this is
uh-huh.
actually like a glimpse into what pattern making looks like. So it's literally flat, but this was like a pattern for a coat that I was going to be making. So I'm basically mapping out all the pieces that I would need to sew together, um, and like basically make a garment. And so
Yeah,
some like the wiggly lines are kind of things that I'm like, nope, I don't want that there anymore. And so it's like literally just like a map that I'm drawing. And going back, like, you need to know math, you need to like kind of think about all this stuff. And so um, a lot of X's are crossed out, like lines are drawn over, dotted lines are happening as like a potential. And it's mostly because it's like I'm just playing around with things at this point before I
yeah.
start making like a sample or like making the actual garment. And so this for me is like where I mostly feel the most creative because I feel like, oh, like I'm actually looking at the pieces together, and so my mind is just kind of like running, and I'm like reshaping things and playing around.
Wow. So what came up for me in listening to you
Mhm.
say that, it's so energizing, inspiring because it's both your right and left brain just
Yeah,
working
yeah,
together.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
incredible.
And I think that's why I like it so much because it's like
Amazing.
problem solving and it's a lot of like analysis in a way, but then also it's like I'm just like drawing shapes. Like if you really think about it, they're just lines that I'm putting on a paper and then it'll be put together and made into like a 3D sort of
Yeah,
thing. So,
that is so wonderful. So we have a friend here. This guy most definitely has
aw,
skills. Yes, you too. Who do we
thank
have
you.
here at Casimiro?
That's he's like a brother to me. That's my friend Jonathan.
Hi,
Thank you.
Jonathan. Thanks for joining us. I want to like encourage folks to chime in. This is an interactive conversation. It's a real talk with Casimiro here. He's an artist. He's a fashion designer, pattern maker, and let's get it. Let's dive in a little
Yeah,
bit deeper. I want people to ask questions,
yeah,
share with us. This is the time to do it. This is the time to do it. So again, we're also live streaming on other channels, and we're able to, showcase Casimiro's work. So yeah, come and join us if you like on YouTube at REEM Media and see. I also want to share. Let's look at your Instagram.
yeah.
And see what we if there's anything on your Instagram, Casemiro, that you'd like to share. Let's see what we got here.
Yeah.
I actually want to share with folks um, this really cute picture that you just shared with your follower.
Yeah,
This is so adorable,
yeah,
Casimiro. Oh my
yeah.
goodness, here you are. And in your caption says, I don't even know who this is.
I know. It was when I was in school. I was like
Yeah.
23, and I was volunteering for the school's fashion show. And so this was kind of like the reception area, like where some of the other students that were graduating were like showing their work, like their portfolios and stuff. And I was kind of helping around, like making sure people like, didn't interrupt, like, because
Yeah.
we were in one of the classroom buildings. And then the photographer comes and he's just like, "Oh, here, can I get a photo of you two?" And I was just like, well, I'm actually like volunteering, but I was like, sure. And so I just took a photo, and I don't know who the woman is. It was like 11 years ago, so I'm like, because the thing is, everyone's really big on tagging, so like, unfortunately, like I don't know who that is. So I couldn't even name drop.
That is So adorable. I
Yeah.
love this so much. So
Yeah.
here on your Instagram, tell us where are you so as a designer,
Hmm.
um creative. Are these some of the like your sources of inspiration as well?
Yeah, yeah, like I kind of like like the flowers and stuff like that. Like I'm like
Yeah.
really inspired by like the colors and like I like floral prints. I feel like I need to design my own, and then yeah, there's like buildings and just kind of shapes that I like. If you scroll up a little bit, you can kind of see the woman that inspired me. So the one above the cats, that's me and my aunt
Yeah.
when I was like 11 years old, and so there she is.
So here, this is your auntie that inspired you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
love it. Oh,
Yeah.
so sweet.
Yeah.
I
So,
love it. And
yeah,
shout out to my sis here, Roxanne.
we are
I
enjoying a
love
tea
this.
and drink.
I
Yeah.
love this. She is also creative. She's also an artist,
Yes.
y'all. Let's
Yes.
shout out to Roxanne. She is just doing her thing. Check
Good
out her
Mood Kitchen.
Instagram.
Good
Yes,
Mood Kitchen.
Food Mood Kitchen, y'all. Tell us how great does she cook and bake,
Oh,
Casimiro?
uh, it's worth every bite. I can just say that. I'm super lucky that I get to eat her her food
Yeah.
all the time. Yeah.
Super lucky. I mean, it's real talk with artists, y'all. So, quick little share here. I'm borrowing my sister's husband for about a week. So I told Roxanne, do I owe you money or something?
Calm down. We're family, so it's
I know, I was
it's
just
what we do.
messing. We were having a blast. But I think like, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do, Casimiro, because you're gonna miss out on her great
I
cooking.
know, I know, I know, but it's fine. It's fine. You
I
know,
love it. This is so
I'll have to like whip up things myself for this.
yes. You're gonna go back home so much more appreciative.
Right.
I love it. I love this so much. Well,
Yeah, so you can
and
kind of see more like architecture and kind of shadows and things like
yes.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I just find this so fascinating that you can draw from from something as still as a building,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
To something as loose and comfortable and fluid as
Yeah.
fabric.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah. I know it's really
so
interesting too
wonderful.
because you take flat fabric and then you mold it to being like a three-dimensional thing. And it's always, yeah, there's some things that I've made on there.
That's so beautiful.
Um,
Any of your fabrics inspired by cats?
no,
Not yet.
not yet. I know. I need to do like a cat print of something just because, I have two cats and so,
Yeah.
like there's my Milo. Um,
These are so good. So
yeah.
good. I know that your Instagram is on private, but folks
Yeah.
can always request you, right?
Yeah, 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 for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I
I
keep
love
it
it.
private just because I was getting a lot of spam and, so
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want like bots following me. So
Yeah. No, I'm sure people they're gonna be like, be an ambassador for us.
yeah, 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 yeah. Or like let's collab. And I'm like, I don't know who you are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Casimiro, tell us what is next for Casimiro?
Well, I definitely feel like now I have a little bit more time to like kind of focus on like creative endeavors. And so I'm hoping that I can kind of like venture out into some things. Like I think I want to start making like tote bags or like bags to carry things, just because I feel like that's like a functional thing.
Yeah.
Um, and in different kinds of materials that are like really exciting. Just kind of thinking about like what are people doing every day now. I know we're still like in the midst of a pandemic, and so maybe going out isn't always on the forefront of our minds, but like a good solid bag is still good when you go do like a grocery run or like
Yeah.
just need to get into your car and drive somewhere, what have you. So probably
Mhm.
work on that. I definitely want to do some like fun creative t-shirts too.
Yeah.
Come up with some like creative ideas there, and then just keep being grateful for the life I was given.
I love that. It actually brings to mind, Casimiro, like maybe we can team up to do some t-shirts or something with like
Yeah,
REEM Media and like your designs.
yeah. That would be fun.
Yeah, have some
Yeah,
what do you call it? I forget. But I need to step it up and have some
yeah,
swag. Is it swag?
yeah. We can like screen print like the logo and
Yeah.
stuff on some bags that I sew. Yeah.
I love it. I have to say, when it comes to bags, at least for me, I'm always thinking efficiency,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm always thinking, I don't want to be carrying like a lot. Less
Mm-hmm.
is better for me when I'm, in errands, when I'm anywhere.
Yeah.
So I love this little fanny pack that I have. I think I got it like at a Daiso store,
Yeah,
and
nice.
it has like this stretchy material.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much I can stuff in, and
Right.
it just
Yeah.
bulks out.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
for sure.
I love that. And I love, like, I find that there is an opportunity for a better creation, develop, like production of like wallets for women and
Mm-hmm.
males. Like
Yeah.
I just find that like they have been so standard for such a long time. I'm like, oh, this could get
Yeah.
boring. So
Yeah.
there you go. Maybe you can fill in those gaps and
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, and it's like something that you can do, make a lot of,
yeah,
and it's like it's just people's preferences and things like that.
yeah.
It's like accessible in some ways, and so yeah, like I'm excited to like start kind of like tossing out ideas for that. So
Yeah, no, that sounds like a lot of fun. And so yeah, we know that we're getting out of a pandemic, and it's just a good thing. I think that we all have to be, super cautious and all that. Last year, when everything, everything was happening, wildfires, waking up to bloody skies.
mhm.
How was that for you in terms of your own creativity?
You know, I'm natural like I can be very social and
Yeah.
attention seeking in my personal life, but at the end of the day, like I'm very introverted. So like I think when it first hit, it was funny because I wasn't necessarily like scared or anything like that, but I think it gave me a time to like really breathe and to just be still. You know what I mean? Because it's like
Um,
sometimes like a lot of us are like go go go, and then
yeah.
I got to spend time with like you know like my partner or my kid for a really long time. Like, we were kind of enclosed together for, like every day. And so before
Yeah.
that, we had our lives, like we had places to go, things like that. And so it was nice to be able to get like some time together that I hadn't had before. And then it just put a lot of stuff into perspective for me. And so I think kind of like I've been like kind of quiet on the creative front, mostly because a lot of the transitions that have happened in the year, but also it kind of gave me a different perspective of like, I need to like not be so hard on myself when I'm being creative. I need to like not judge myself so much. I need to like just do it for the sake of doing it, or like maybe start learning some other creative things to like inspire me to keep doing it. Like that kind of stuff. Like it made me rethink kind of how I approach certain things and kind of gave me the time to breathe, which is great. So amidst the pandemic, I still had a lot of like positivity around me, and I was able to feel really good about the things that I was doing.
I love that. That's
Yeah,
so wonderful. I'm glad, that's what you did.
yeah,
You went inside and
yeah.
did that inner work. It's so beautiful. And shout out to Xavier.
Yep. He's
Oh,
also creative. We have a
he's
lot of
yeah,
creativity in our house.
so much creativity.
Yeah.
So I had the pleasure, the fortune of meeting y'all. I'll tell everyone. Like, we had just moved to Oakland, new Oakland family, my son and I. And my son, enrolled him at Westlake, which is by Lake Merritt for all y'all Oakland folks. And I remember going to our very first open house,
Hmm.
and I saw Casimiro, Roxanne, and Xavier, and I was like, oh my God, that's who I need to kick it with. That's my fam right there. I don't know.
I.
It
It's so
was
funny.
the aura.
I realized that was the first time you have all had like moved there.
Yes. That I don't It was like your entire aura of the
Oh
entire
wow.
family. Like y'all were just hit. Xavier, all of y'all. I was like, I want to kick it with that
Yeah.
family.
I know. We're so lucky that we like found each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're all grown up now. They're young adults.
Oh, I know. It's crazy. Because I think the last time we did something for the other podcast, like Timothy's voice was so deep and he just looked so, I was just like, oh, right. Like he's 22. So
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
wouldn't he grow up, you know?
Exactly, exactly. No, I love that. Yeah, one day we're gonna have to have all of y'all here, the whole
Yeah.
entire family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's it's so super inspirational. Casimiro, thank you so
Oh, thank
much.
you. Thank
I
you.
wish I could be like, I'm gonna see you soon. We'll be on a FaceTime soon.
Yeah, I know. Literally like in a few hours going over
I
the
know, right?
nitty-gritty.
But Willie's gonna see you soon, though.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you for
Yeah,
everything.
no, thank you. This was great. Honestly, thank you for having me.
You're so amazing. Well, thank you for being here, and it's just so much fun. I want to give a shout out to Berkeley Community Media. We were not in the studios today, but David had our back. He was doing the sound check for us.
Thank you,
Uh,
David.
Also, StreamYard too. They
Yeah.
they they helped. They came through.
We got
Actually,
through some
and
technical issues.
in technical issues, you came through, though, Casamiro. You're
I
tech
know.
savvy. Typically, we have this show live on REEM Media on our my business Instagram, and somehow I just came on today here, but hey, it's all
Good
good.
luck.
We'll transition to there next time. And let's see. Yeah, thank you,
Yeah, thank
everyone.
you.
Follow Casimiro. If you have a fashion idea, hit him up. He's open for commissions. He's also such a gem of a person.
Oh,
You're
thank you.
definitely gonna love interacting with him, getting to know him, connecting with him. When Casemiro said that I think you alluded to maybe like seeking like attention. I'm like,
Yeah.
really? Because I see you as like just so chill, like
Oh, thank you. No, ask if you ask anyone that I've lived with or my family, yeah, like they'll be like, oh, okay, like enough's enough. Like,
oh, that is so adorable. Well, I with that, Casimiro, I think you and Willie are gonna get along just fine because he's gonna
awesome.
just want your attention all the time.
Sweet. Well, I'm glad. I'm looking forward to hanging out with Willie next week.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you, fam. All right. Thanks everybody for coming in and saying, watching us.
Yeah.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
one, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.